So this example, we're going to be constructing a histogram with the TI-84. The first thing we're going to do is to bring up the problem and the data list. The data is on divorce rates, and the rates are, the unit is number of divorces per 1,000 population in many of the U.S. states. This includes the District of Columbia, but not Georgia, California, Hawaii, Indiana, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. You can see the source down at the bottom. Notice that all of these data values are rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, so the first thing to do is to enter the data into the calculator. So what I'm going to do is to bring up the calculator and enter in the data. So I'll bring up the calculator here, and the first thing you want to do is to go to the place where you enter the data, and that is in the stat menu. So go there and then select option number 1, which is edit, where we'll edit the data list. So as the cursor is in the very first spot of L1, this is where you'll start entering your data. Just type in each data value followed by an enter. So the first data value is 4.7. Enter that number in and hit enter. The next data value is 1.7. Oops, I'm going to hit the delete key. I'll just clear that out. 1.7, enter, and so on. I'll put the list back up here and we'll enter in all 40 some of these data values. So go ahead and enter in the rest of these data values. You may want to pause the screen, the video at this point, so that you can enter in all of these data values. So go ahead and pause, and we'll come back with the entire list in L1. Okay, so the data are all entered in. You can see that in position number 45 there, that's the last data value, 4.1, so you should have 45 data values in your list. Now the next thing to do to construct the histogram is to go configure the statistical plot. Right above the y equals key here is stat plot. To get there, hit second and then y equals, and you'll have 4 different plots that you can turn on here. Just go ahead and select plot number 1, and you'll go inside the input screen for this plot. Turn on the plot by toggling the word on, and then go down to the type of plot and move over to the histogram icon. Okay, and then, oops. Once you go to the histogram icon, you have to hit enter to toggle it on. And when you do that, you'll see that the list down here changes to one list. And the calculator knows that histograms require just a single set of data. So we put our data value in L1, each with a frequency of 1. So the plot is now configured correctly. All right, another thing you can do is to go to y equals. If you have, you'll notice now that plot 1 is turned on, ready to be graphed, our histogram data. And if you have anything in these y's here, you might want to delete them out so that the grapher doesn't think that you want to graph these things as well. Now, a quick command that you can use on the calculator to just automatically graph a histogram or any statistical plot is in the zoom menu here. It's zoom stat. And so if you go down, it's zoom 9. There it is. What will happen is your calculator will go peek at your active plots and then automatically scale the X and Y axes so that your data can be viewed. So you can see what the calculator constructs as an automatic, the histogram. It looks like it has 7 bars there. Looks like it might be skewed a little bit to the positive side. So let's say that we want to create our own classes using the algorithm indicated by our textbook. So let's go ahead and calculate a histogram with 6 bars. So in our data list, the minimum data value turns out to be 1.7. And the maximum data value turns out to be 6.4. The range then is 6.4 minus 1.7, which is 4.7. If we're interested in 6 classes, then the class width would be 4.7 divided by 6, which equals 0.78333. So we always round up. So notice all of our data values are rounded to the nearest tenth. And so when we round up, we want to round up to the nearest tenth. Now the digit in the 10th place right now is 7. And so regardless of what that next digit is, as long as there's something over there, when we round up, we're going to get 0.8. So coming down into establishing the classes, we're going to start with the minimum data value, 1.7, and then the beginning of the second class we will find by adding the class width of 0.8 to 1.7, so 2.5. And then the next class, if we add another 0.8, 3.3, add another 0.8, 4.1, add another 0.8, 4.9, and finally add another 0.8, 5.7. Now to get the ending of each class, if you go down to the beginning of the first class, or the second class there, you see 2.5. So if the second class begins at 2.5, then the end of the first class has to be 2.4. And keeping with this pattern, or just adding the class width to 2.4, you get 3.2 and 4.0 and 4.8 and 5.6, and then finally add 0.8 to 5.6 and you get 6.4. Notice that our maximum data value is 6.4, so the last class will capture that largest data value. Okay, so let's go configure the graphing calculator with these classes now and have it construct our histogram. Okay, so if we want to configure the window in order to see our histogram with 6 classes, what we'll do is enter 1.7 for the minimum x value, and then the maximum x value would be the right endpoint of our last class, which is 6.4, and then the x scale turns out to be our class width, which is 0.8. The y minimum you can set at -2 so that you see the x-axis. I think maybe the largest frequency of any class will be 20, so I'll set that at 20. and then a scale marking on the y-axis of 2. Alright, resolution you can leave at 1. Now with the window configured like this and our plot turned on, the only thing left to do is hit graph, and here is our histogram. Looks fairly bell-shaped, maybe a little bit skewed to the positive direction. Now if you want to see the frequencies of each one of those bars, you can go to the trace key and hit that. And notice this first bar here that you can't see very well, but it has a minimum value of 1.7, and then it assumes all values less than 2.5, so it ends at 2.4, and the frequency is 2. You go to the next bar, you have a frequency of 13, another frequency of 13 on the third bar, and so on. So there is your histogram on the TI-84.